Hi everyone, Sharon here with Creating with Sharon, and welcome. Appreciate it. I am an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator here in the city of Winnipeg, Manitoba in Canada. And today I'm going to show you how I made this gorgeous card using the Ever Eden cotton paper. It comes in two colors. This is Soft Succulent and Evening Evergreen. Evening Evergreen. But that's a mouthful for me. So I'm going to be using the Soft Succulent, and I'm going to use some other stuff. So let's bring in what I'm going to use. So to do the base, I'm going to bring in the Soft Succulent cotton paper. I'm going to bring in my stencil from the Adoring Designs decorative mask, and I'm going to adhere that onto my cotton paper, and then I'm just going to add a wee bit of painter's tape just to keep the stencil in place, just like that. And I'm also going to use my shimmering white paste and of course a palette. I'm just going to open this up. I'm going to take some of my paste, and I'm going to very lightly push it over the stencil, making sure I don't get it everywhere because I don't want it on my desk, because it will stick and it dries pretty fast. So you want to use the wider of your pasting knives. That way you can push down lightly and it's not going to have your paste go everywhere on the other side. And just get that on the top, just like that. Oops. And I'm just going to take the excess off and put it back into the jar. Oh, there's a wee bit there. Now this is not my design. I saw this on, I think, Facebook. I saw it somewhere. Can't remember where I seen it. And I thought I'd give it a try. And it's quite a simple technique to use. So now I'm just going to put my lid. Make sure you put your lid back on tightly so it doesn't dry out on you. And ideally you want to have a dish of water handy. Okay, so there we have that. Just going to put this to the side, put a baby wipe on it until I'm able to actually wash it down. I just don't want to leave you guys right now, so just put a baby wipe over top to keep it moist, and then just put it on. There we go. Okay, so now that we've done that, I'm going to bring in my heat tool. Bring in my heat tool, my clear embossing powder, and I'm going to add embossing powder onto this to adhere it. So it gives it like a, I guess like a gloss finish. Even though it's shiny, it's going to give it, make it even shinier. And we'll just sprinkle that everywhere. I guess an enamel finish, that's what it is, an enamel finish. Very pretty. Okay, and then we will bring this up, take the excess embossing powder off it just like that. Put it back down. I'm just going to push these out of the way because I don't want my powder to go flying everywhere. And then we'll just turn on the heating tool, get it nice and warm, and then we'll heat up the embossing powder and to give it an enamel look. So it's nice and warm now, and I'm going to bring in my Pick-a tool, keep the paper in place, and then just go over the snowflakes until they're nice and glossy. Make sure you get all of it. And basically what they'll do is they'll just go shiny on you. What I like to do when I emboss is like to warm up my heating tool and then very slowly take it over the powder for it to seal. There's many different techniques, but that's the technique that I like to use. Just easier for me to follow along what's been done and what hasn't. Almost have it all done. Just going to get around the edges here and then thinking that we're done. And just double check. And then also when you're heating it up, it actually dries the paste also. So now what we're going to do, and I don't have a heart attack, because now I'm going to take this piece of cotton paper and I'm going to scrunch it all up. And I'm going to bring in, I'm going to flip this over, and I'm going to bring in a piece of Soft Succulent cardstock. Open this up. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to adhere it onto my card base. And how I'm going to do that is I'm going to take my Tombow glue, and you want to use Tombow glue in this because, excuse me, you want to use Tombow glue in this because it gives you time to move it around and flatten it down onto your base. And make sure you get around the edges. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring in another one of my palettes. And all I'm going to do is just take the glue and spread it and make sure that it goes to the edge of the cardstock so that when you go to put your cotton on there, that it's going to stick. So you notice there's a little bit of places, corners that aren't fully got glue on them. So I'm just going to just bring in my Tombow glue again and just spread this out right to the edges. Make sure it's nice and sticky. And now I'm going to bring this piece in and adhere it to my cardstock and then just push it down just like that. Now that looks gorgeous just like that because you have like a linen effect on that. I'm just going to just push it down. So how I like to do that is bring in a little block. You don't want to push it down really hard because you don't want to destroy your gorgeous snowflakes. And just, there we go. Just so it's just like that. There we have it. Okay, so I'm just going to go let this dry a bit and then we'll just trim it up. And while we're waiting, what we'll do is we'll make the little flag and do the embossing on that. So I have a piece of cardstock that's 2 inches by 4 inches, and I have my tailored tag punch. Just going to insert that just like that and pop it, and then I have a perfect flagged image cardstock. Now I'm going to bring in my embossing folder, and I think on this one I'm going to use the time worn type embossing folder on this, and bring in my Big Boss. Now with this embossing folder, you cannot use it on the smaller one due to the fact that it's 6 inches across, and the smaller, the small boss isn't that wide. I'm just going to take it, and I'm going to use the lines on the bottom of the folder and take my plate number 1 and plate number 4, put my embossing folder in, that over top, and then just run it through just like that. There we go. And then I'm going to just, oops. Okay, so while we're still waiting for this to dry, we'll just do some stamping. So I have a scrap piece of basic white cardstock. I have my cinnamon cider ink pad, and I have a sentiment from the Mary Snowflake stamp set. I'm going to ink this up. And remember, when you're inking, it's tap, tap, tap. Don't push it in and move it around, because you'll have ink everywhere. Just stamp it. Just like that. And I'm just going to put the lid back on this. And I'm going to bring in my scissors. And I'm just going to fussy cut around. I know some of you don't like the fussy cut. I do. Find it very relaxing. I like the fussy cut, and I like to color with my blends. Just find it so soothing after a rough day. I don't have rough days because I can craft all day, so no day's a rough day for me. And just go over the images, around the images. And just like that. Now I'm just going to discard these pieces here and bring this back in. There's my embossed piece, my image piece. This is my card base, and it still might be a little damp. I think it's pretty dry. So I'm just going to bring it in. I'm going to just trim back the cotton paper. And my card base is 4 by 5.5 by 4 by 5.25. And out of the way. So now I have that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the two colors together. So I'm going to do the Evening Evergreen with the Soft Succulent, and then I'm going to just adhere that right on to the card base, just like that. I'm just going to trim this back just a wee bit more. Make sure that it's 4 inches. There we go. Perfect. And then I'm going to adhere it onto my card base, just like that. And I'm going to use my running tape. So, and because it's been glued upon and it's sort of warped and heated up, I'm going to use my Stampin' Seal, because it is a heavier duty tape, and it will hold everything in place for me. Just tape around the edges, and then one just down the center, and then just put this into place. Now just remember, once you put this into place, it's going to stay there, so try and make sure that you have it almost perfect. So there we have that done. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in my embossed piece, and I'm going to put that about here, and I'm going to add that using my dimensionals. I have a few left on my sheet here, so I'm just going to cut them down a bit. So I have lots. You don't want to waste any of these, guys. Use them all. And there. And just a couple in the center, and then one in each of the corners of the flag. And then just take off your backings. And then you just want to put this into place. So we're just going to put it to the left-hand side of the actual card. Now, who would have thought? Well, I guess brown and green go very well together because they're nature's colors, but I would never have thought of how well they went together. So now I have my flag on there. So now if you notice on here, I have a snowflake. So what I've done is I've taken a snowflake from the Wonderful Snowflakes from the annual catalog. And I'm going to just pop this out. Just got to be really careful. They're only adhered at the points of the snowflakes. So you can just take your finger up to the point and just push them out. Be gentle when you pull them out. You don't want to break any of the little wings off. So now this is iridescent on one side. And I don't want to do that. I'm going to just do the matte. So I'm going to just flip it over and do it this side. And if you notice, does that look familiar to you? Of course it does. Because that is a center. The center is actually the same design and dimension and size of a actual dimensional. So I'm just going to take this. I'm going to put this in place in the top. And I put it on backwards. I didn't want to do that. Oh dear. Let's just see if we can pull this off. Yeah, there we go. So I want the paper side. I want the matte side up. I want the iridescent side down. So I got to put the dimensions on the back side of that. And now I'm going to use the tip of the snowflake as my guideline. And take that almost to the top and just pop it into place. Now I'm going to bring in my sentiment, which says, everything, merry everything. 'Tis the season, it's coming, eh? Hard to believe it's almost here. And I'm going to adhere that on top of the flag piece. And I'm just going to use my dimensions. I'm going to cut them in half because it is kind of narrow. Put one piece there. Oops. And one piece there. Now when I put my dimensions on, I'm going to make sure that this is going to sit on the flag. You don't want it to go over the edges because otherwise it won't lie flat. And just put that right like that. Now if you notice here, I have some a gorgeous piece of ribbon. And you want to know how I got that is I colored my ribbon using my blends. And there's my blend. And here's my ribbon. So this is the organza, or the glittered organza ribbon, and I've already colored it. And how I did that is I just took my blends. So you can just about color anything with blends. So if you don't have it, rhinestones, if you don't have the right rhinestone, you can definitely use that. And just color it just like that. Just going to just give it a second coat. And it doesn't take long to dry. And I find when you use the blends to color, it makes the ribbon easier to make a bow. And I'm just going to take it. And obviously you want to make sure you have more than you really need. I think right here, I think I have about 18 inches. Yeah, I have about 18 inches on that one. I'm just going to just clip the end. Just like that. I'm going to bring in my bow maker. And I'm going to tie my bow. So all I'm doing with this is I'm taking my ribbon, I'm putting this piece, one of the flag's tails in my right hand, and then it's going to wrap this around. Whoops, 1, 2, whoops, 1, 2, 3 times. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the top, I'm going to take the top piece, bring it down, bring this piece over top, and keep it flat. And then bring the bottom piece to the other side. And then you're just going to turn it around and then just tie it in a knot. Just like that. Now once you've done this and you tie it in a knot, there's a good chance it's not going to come apart again. So make sure it's exactly what you want. And then all we're going to do is just flag out the 3 pieces just to make it look fluffy. There we go. And I'm going to bring in this, and I'm going to bring in my glue dots, and I'm going to just take a glue dot, push my bow right onto that, and then take this and then push it right into the center of my snowflake. I like my ends even, so I like to bring the ends up together. You always want to cut your ribbon on a slant. That way it's not going to fray any which way. Just and hold them together like that, and then just snip them. And that gives them the right length. Oops. There we go, perfect. Okay, so my cards aren't finished unless I have a wee bit of bling. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in my champagne rhinestones, and I'm just going to add 3 of them onto my card. And so all of the dimensions and all of the products are listed. So make sure you hit that like button, that subscribe button, and the bell, so every time I do go live that you will get a notification. Every time I post a video, you'll get notification. So there's the 2 cards. This is the one I started with. This is the one I made today. So I'm hoping you're enjoying the technique I showed you today. And thanks again for joining me. I really appreciate it. Again, I'm Sharon Davies. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator here in Winnipeg, and would love to have you as a client if you're not working with somebody already. And I'll let you go. Thanks again for joining me. Appreciate it. Have a wonderful day. See ya. Bye.